Hello and welcome to Minivangelism from the driver's seat, where we talk about the Bible without the kids in the car. If the kids are in the car, let them go listen to something else, because today we are talking about
sunrise service
and Chinese food
and seersucker overalls.
Let's go.
Happy Easter. Happy Easter.
Hello and welcome to Minivangelism from the driver's seat, where we talk about the Bible without the kids in the car. If the kids are in the car, tell them to go find some Easter eggs, because today we're talking about Easter without them. Welcome.
I love that.
I went for something.
But I went for Easter.
Yeah, kid-free Easter. Yeah. So, hello.
Hi.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter. I'm so excited. I'm not kidding you. Easter is just top number one holiday for
I love
me.
that. It is not for me.
Well, that's because you have to work so much. I feel like if I become a pastor, Easter's not going to be that for me.
Yeah. It's mostly like, oh my gosh, I hope Jesus is raised again this year. And I hope we get out on time. Those are the two main things.
Yeah. I think the hardest part of being a pastor on Easter would be having to do a different sermon every year when it's the same story.
Yeah. Ironically, that has not been my experience.
Okay.
There's always something else to be said.
Well, I look forward to hearing your take this year, buddy.
But this is just year 14 or 15, or I don't even know how long I've been doing this. So talk to me again in year 36 and I might be like, yeah, I'm out.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and put that on my phone.
I've run out of things to say. What version of the Easter story did you inherit?
I inherited, the generic, good old fashioned Easter story. It was a VHS tape.
Yes.
A good one. It was a good one. And of course, I've talked about my theatrical experiences with Easter. But yeah, Jesus died, and then there was the big stone with the guards, and then a big earthquake, and then Jesus came busting out.
Yeah.
The play version, we had fireworks go off in the church.
Of course you did. That's incredible.
It was this really dark kind of music, and then all of a sudden the timpani would go off, and then fireworks would burst out, and then the stone would roll away, and I've talked about this before, the devil was in front of the tomb, and then Jesus busts out and fights him.
Perfect.
And he holds up the keys, and yeah, it's awesome. So that's one Easter. But Easter Sunday has just always been a big thing that we've celebrated.
Yeah.
We always do a big lunch after Easter.
What's on the table? What's on the menu?
Ham, macaroni cheese, rolls, salad, and/or green bean casserole, and sweet tea.
Yeah.
Lots of sweet tea.
That sounds right.
And then if you haven't gotten cavities from sweet tea, you go out and you hunt your Easter eggs and you eat all the candy. That's dessert. There's no Easter dessert. It is the candy and the egg.
At my house, there's a coconut cake that my grandmother used to always make.
Oh, nice.
And it was decorated with jelly beans. So I tried to always get the slice with the most jelly beans on top.
Was it a lamb cake?
No, it was, we did one year have a lamb cake.
How bad was it?
It was off-putting. It was a delicious cake, but it was off-putting to be slicing into a lamb.
Yeah. Was it red velvet in the middle?
No, it wasn't that graphic. It was for whatever reason, coconut cake. Coconut is the flavor.
Yeah.
Of Easter cake.
What else do y'all eat on Easter?
Now we eat Chinese food.
Oh, yeah.
Because my wife gives up Asian food for Lent because she loves it. And by the time we're eating on Easter, I've been working all day and she's been working all day with the children.
Yeah.
And neither of us want to cook anything.
Right.
And so now it's sponsored by our local Chinese restaurant. And it's fantastic.
I love that. Well, there's always a place in our house.
Yeah.
Because I said, I go when I used to we used to all get together as a family growing up. We would go to my mama's house, or if we were visiting a grandparent for Easter, we would go to their house. But then when David and I got married and we moved because of the military, we moved to another state, it just became a thing of just our friends wherever we were living. You're coming over and we're going to have an Easter egg hunt and all the things.
I love that.
We moved here. we only knew one other family when we moved here, and they were friends of ours from Texas, and they have 2 little boys. And so our first Easter here in Virginia, we were just like, come on over, we'll hunt eggs, because my husband and the husband in that family, they're both musicians. So they're playing Easter gigs.
Oh,
That's their trumpet players have a really sweet deal
It's
on
the
Easter.
Super Bowl.
And so after their gigs, they come over and they're all black. And we get together. And so it's been really cool the last like 4 years, like having these pictures of our kids and like watching them grow up on the steps of our house, like in their little Easter outfits.
No,
so
that's awesome.
It's just fun. Yeah. What about you? What's the version of Easter that you inherited?
Yeah, I don't necessarily have any individual or particular idea. The funny thing is, like, the like Easter sermons are always hard to write, and when I remember hearing them year after year, even when it was my parents preaching them, my sense is like it's never good enough.
Oh, no.
You can't, because you can't get it all. Like it's like looking at the sun, like you can't take it all in.
You're not supposed to do that. You know that, right?
I know, but one day I'll master it.
Okay.
I'll
drive you. I'll just drive the van.
That's my overall sense of Easter is, but I think the version of what I inherited is curiosity about how it really happened, because the 4 Gospels don't tell the same story.
Yeah.
And of course, in an adolescent brain, that means like, oh, then it probably didn't happen because they're just making it up. The irony is that if you actually take eyewitness testimony, no 2 eyewitnesses experience the same thing in the same way. So that doesn't actually mean it like didn't happen. But I've always been curious about the details. But ultimately, like now, how it happened is not the thing that captivates me. It's just that it happened.
Well, I can tell you how it happened. There were angels and demons flying in the sky. There was a fight.
There were fireworks.
I know what happened. I was there.
Yeah. It's funny. That's what bothers me about the story is when there are too many details.
Yeah.
When we get too caught up in the details, or there's too many, like, that's part of why my immediate reaction to hearing you talk about it happening in a play, I'm like, why even try? Why even try to make it happen in the context of a play? Because fireworks are lovely and not enough.
Yes.
And I don't know if there's a way to depict or describe it that doesn't come off to me as trite.
Yeah.
Because of its ultimate significance.
Listen,
but I'm a snob.
This was the only theater that Griffin, Georgia was getting at that time.
It was, and I'm not actually trying to down it. I'm confessing my own sense that that I'm resigned to being unsatisfied with Easter.
Yeah.
I'm weird.
What is your take on sunrise service?
It's lovely.
Yeah.
I think it's yeah. I don't have a problem with it. I think it's a little sentimental for my taste. But I mentioned recently, like, the most metal Easter thing to do is the all-night vigil.
Yeah.
But nobody's got time for that. And it's not sentimental. It's just, we're going to be here for 3 hours, and you're going to stand the whole time, and we're going to tell the whole damn story. I'm here for that. But I do remember a couple sunrise services that we got drugged to as kids, and it was moving. And when the sunrise hits right, it's very, very cool.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I'm anxious about what time will the sun actually rise? Because Easter's not on the same day every year.
Right.
So it's one more thing for the pastor to be anxious about.
I remember, so like my parents were in the choir at our church. And so there were a few years where the choir was singing at the sunrise service, the 8:30 service, and the 10:45 service. So like all 3 services. And so the choir would be there, and then they would have a breakfast for the choir and their families in between the like sunrise service and the first service. And it was always in our fellowship hall. And I remember there were always biscuits and like sausage biscuit, all the kind of biscuits. And like now I can't smell like corporate communal breakfast without thinking about Easter.
Oh, that's fantastic. I do have very vivid memories of a couple years where we did have breakfast at the church afterward, and like orange juice never tasted sweeter. Like all of it just was absolutely delicious.
It was because it was Sunny D, but like,
and it was because it was over. Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic.
Did you have to wear? Did you have particular like special Easter clothes?
Yes. That's the source of some trauma, probably. But I'm kidding.
I was going to say, if you need to go there, buddy, we're here. No. We're here for it. My brother we have the most amazing picture. So every year my grandmother would take me and my cousins to South Lake Mall in Atlanta. So if you're in Georgia and you're listening to this, you know South Lake Mall ain't what it used to be. Yeah. But we go to South Lake Mall and we get our Easter outfits. And like we all had to match.
Right. That was
not just me and my brother, but also my cousins. Like we all had to match, so everybody knew we belonged to one family.
That's a lot.
And there was
because everybody's keeping track of how many people you got to church that Sunday.
Yes. And let's pour one out for the amount of seersuckers that give their lives to clothe Southern families on Easter. So there was one year that I had a seersucker dress. It was like a gingham seersucker dress. And my brother had these like seersucker overalls.
I had those.
Yes. With the carrots, the bunnies and the carrots.
I don't think I had the bunnies and the carrots.
So they had bunnies on the side. And then like where the suspenders attached was carrots. And he hated carrots. And there's a picture of him with his hands just on like covering the carrots with the like most F you guys face. And he's like, I don't like carrots.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so there's trauma there. But I get it.
When I look at the pictures of like Easter's past, I remember there was a year where suddenly I wanted to pick out what I was wearing and look nice.
Yeah.
And I don't look any better. So I don't think there was probably any winning, particularly in retrospect. Because there was the year I decided I wanted to wear a suit and tie.
Nice.
and looked like somebody who did not belong in a suit and tie.
What color was the suit and tie?
Oh, I don't even remember.
Was it like Dumb and Dumber, like pastel blue?
It was around the time when, thanks to Regis Philbin, monochromatic ties were in.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I definitely had a monochromatic tie face. And now I think if you wear something like that, you look like a magician.
Did you just say, as an adolescent, you modeled your style after Regis Philbin?
I guess I did. There's no avoiding that just happened. It was like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, you know? It wasn't. There's no justifying it.
So this year, just letting everybody know, if you follow us on Instagram, we will be posting pictures of our Easter outfits. And you please leave a comment and tell Drew how nice he looks on Easter Sunday.
Now I'm much closer to Regis Philbin than I was then. So good luck.
Yeah.
What makes you uncomfortable about the story?
I think, like you said, like the lack of detail. I want to know what happened. Yeah. I think that's one. And the fact that nobody takes it seriously. Like they're standing in a tomb of the man that said, I'm going to die, but don't worry, I'm going to be resurrected. They're looking at an angel who's saying he is resurrected like he told you to. And it's not until Mary sees Jesus face to face that she's like, oh yeah, I remember that time he said you were going to be resurrected. And I think the reason that makes me so uncomfortable is because I know that I would be the same way. Mm. Like that I would spend 3 years with somebody watching them perform miracles. And then when it's time for them to like really show up, I'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah. Also, I get it. Like if you had a friend who you were spending 3 years with who said, one day I'm going to turn blue.
Yeah.
You know, like you would be like, he must mean metaphorically because there's no way. And then if he turns up blue, then you're like, I guess he was for real.
Well, they watched him raise other people from the dead.
Yes.
And they were like, nah.
Yeah. I think you're wise to say it's frustrating to see how dumb they are and to know that part of the point of that is to say we would be that dumb too.
100%.
There's a great scene. So I did go see my first ever episode of Chosen.
Yay, he did it.
I did. And it was not that bad. In fact, it was kind of good.
It's so good.
And there's one scene around Palm Sunday where Jesus once again makes this prediction about his death and resurrection, and there's a conversation between Mary Magdalene and one of the disciples, and they're trying to figure it out. They're like, why does he keep saying that?
Is it Peter?
And,
Was it the hot one? Because that's Peter.
I have no idea. And I love that they included that conversation because they were being very earnest. They were very worried. Why does he keep saying that? Because it does not compute that he could be for real about that. And it's distressing. And that kind of gives some credence to it. Like, yes, they're dumb. They don't get it. And it's something inconceivable. So of course it doesn't compute.
Yeah. What bothers you about the story?
It's hard to describe, but it's something about like, what bothers me is how lightly we refer to it. That as if you could just stare in the sun and enjoy it. There's something about it that is so holy that I get annoyed at anything that feels trite. Now I think I'm oversensitive to that.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
No.
But I think that's part of it. It doesn't really bother me how few people really truly kind of believe it. I've actually kind of had an interesting evolution on that. Because one way to take it is, well, it's a lovely story, and it's a beautiful metaphor. It's like butterflies and flowers and all that stuff. But as I've learned more, like, we have always been asking these questions, like, no, but for real, how in the hell can this happen? And
how in the heaven can this happen?
there you go. And the church has never really adequately answered the how question. But the church has said, just accept that it happened, because it did.
Yeah.
And there's parts of the New Testament, like when Paul's writing, where he says, look, it happened. I know it's hard to believe. You got to take me at my word. And if it didn't happen, we are absolutely screwed.
Right.
If it didn't happen, anybody who says it did is most of all to be pitied, because all of our hope rests on this. But because it did, all of our hope is surely founded and established. So I've kind of reached a point in my own faith where it's like, it's this or nothing, and I choose this.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm wrong. I'm actually convinced. And if in the end it turns out I'm wrong, shucks. Because it's so good that I don't care that much. But I've also at the same time kind of been brought around. So I think that's the evolution. I don't think I believed in it. I think I did as a child. I stopped once I learned about science. Then I said, it doesn't matter whether it really literally happened, because it's a wonderful metaphor and a beautiful story. And then the last evolution was, oh my God, it literally happened.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I live now. So that doesn't bother me when people are at different points in that journey, because I think those are logical and perhaps even necessary points on that journey. What makes it uncomfortable for me is when people assume I'm dumb.
Yeah. Because
I believe in this. Yeah. But I don't really have any energy for trying to convince them.
Right.
So all of that is like part of the background feelings of Easter, and like talking about it, teaching it to kids, preaching about it on Easter Sunday this is an impossible to believe thing. And the only way anybody's going to believe it is if God makes them believe it.
Yeah.
One way or another. And on Easter Sunday particularly, there's people in this room that part of them sees the impossibility of this thing and thinks this whole thing is dumb.
Right.
And my job is actually not to convince them. My job is to tell the story and love them. But that's definitely part of the baggage I have around Easter and Easter Sunday.
Yeah. I don't know too, though. Like I just love, so I've mentioned my husband's a musician,
Mm-hmm.
so he's never the same denomination on Easter.
Yeah.
And before I started working at a church and had kids that I wanted, to be at the same church every Easter, I would go with him to these different Easter gigs. So I have seen Easter in all denominations.
Oh, that's so cool.
I think Episcopalian might be my favorite,
Mm-hmm.
just because they used real wine at communion. So I went through the line a couple times.
Naturally.
This is before I drank, and so, but the one thing that's consistent across all denominations is the amount of joy that is in the room.
Yeah.
And the energy that is in the room. That it's here. It's finally here. We've been going through this 40 days of reflection. A couple days ago, we had a really somber service. It's just, I don't know. Maybe it's just the aesthetic. I don't know. There's trumpets and there's music and it's just a lot. And I think it's one of those, like, even if you are sitting in the room and you think it's dumb, it kind of reminds me of like those commercials where, a family goes on a cruise and there's like the teenager that's like sullen, but then like they can't help but smile at some point. Like,
And they end up going on the water slide.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, that's just kind of the feeling that I get. Because there have definitely been some Easters where I'm like, I'm not feeling it. Right. My hair is just not curling the way I want it to curl. I have to wear carrots. Like, there have definitely been some Easters, but it's just no matter what I'm going through or what I'm feeling, being in a sanctuary and just declaring like, this is the foundation of our whole faith.
Right.
I don't know. It's really special to me. It means a lot to me.
Do you have a favorite moment in the story as told in any of the four Gospels?
When Mary meets Jesus. That's my favorite.
What part of it?
Just when he says her name.
Mm-hmm.
He calls her by name and her eyes are opened. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I remember when he called me by my name and I got to see him for who he was. Amen.
My favorite part is in the same version, in John's version, but it's when Jesus says, "Why are you crying?" Yeah. Because that is a pregnant question. Like, that is like, it connects back to like the Exodus where God says to Moses, like, "I've heard the cries of my people," and in miniature, "Why are you crying?" says the Lord, and whatever our answer is to that question, Easter is God's response. Yeah. And again, that's not a lot of details. That's a tiny moment, but all of the light that the sun can muster shines through that moment for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved Isla's little like thought experiment that she had on Minivangelism of just like, put yourself in that situation.
Yeah.
How would you feel? How would you, there was a story I thought about that I was like, this isn't a story for kids, but I was like, I bookmarked it for this episode. Going back to their disbelief. So I have two beautiful daughters, but the first one was a journey getting here. And we tried for a very, very long time. And it took like a year and a half and medical intervention and all the things. And I remember the day that I found out I was pregnant. I saw the result on the test and I put it down and I walked out of the room because I didn't believe it was true. And I was at my mom's house and I like took it to my mom and I was like, what does this mean? And she was like, I think you know what it means. And I was like, no, it's not true. I went to the doctor. I got the blood test. They confirmed it was true. And I said, no, it's not true. I saw the little bean on the screen and I heard the heartbeat and I said, no, it's not true. And it wasn't until I actually felt movement that I was like, oh, this is really happening.
Yeah.
This is a very real thing.
Yeah.
That,
and you can have joy now.
Right. But I still was afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Like I still was so, I don't know what it is about when you encounter God making something impossible possible. Like, why do you think that is? Why do you think we dig in our heels and just refuse to accept it?
Is that rhetorical?
No.
It's usually either to protect ourselves or to protect God. It's either to protect ourselves from being disappointed, or protect God from actually having to live up to our expectations of God, not wanting to put that on God, and neither of those are like good, bad, or indifferent. But like that's how I've experienced it. Is I don't want to let my expectations get ahead of me because I don't want to have to walk them back, or I don't want to give credit to this to God because it's okay, God, you don't have to do everything for me, like protecting God in that way.
Yeah.
And Easter and conception and forgiveness are all moments like that.
Yeah.
Where I think it's natural to second guess it.
And I think the thing I loved, and it was just the way Isla said it so bluntly, it was just like, I mean, I wouldn't believe it unless I had proof.
Yeah.
I think I carried so much guilt for so long that it was a lack of faith. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That like, oh, you don't believe that this is true. You don't believe that God could answer this prayer. And I would beat myself up for having lack of faith. But then when I see his actual disciples, when I see Mary Magdalene look him in the face and not believe it, you know what I mean? It's comforting.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah. It even happens at the Ascension. Like Jesus literally flies away.
Yes.
And we're told, and many believed, but some doubted.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not magic. It's not instant, and it's not guaranteed.
Right.
It's a gift.
Yeah.
And all of us need some kind of proof. So I was right. We all need some kind of proof. And I wish that all of us got to see Jesus face to face in the flesh. This is where we get into more kind of meta language for that. I think it takes us being able to see Jesus in the flesh. It just might not look like Jesus.
Yeah.
It might be a sonogram.
Yeah.
Or it might be the face of somebody who you haven't spoken to in years when you reconcile with them. Or who knows what it is. Maybe it's a sunrise, but that's too sentimental for me. But like I don't know anybody who has a living faith who didn't require some kind of proof.
Yeah.
Some kind of convincing.
I think when Jesus said, like, blessed are those that believe and haven't seen, like, that was one of those that's like, because Jesus has a lot of moments where he sets the bar real high.
Right.
And I feel like for so long we have set that as like a low bar faith. That's a high bar faith.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when he's telling people to, like cut off hands and gouge out eyes
Right.
for living in perfection. Right. That's high bar faith. And yeah, I just think that's the same. Yeah.
But part of my story is that any belief I have, Jesus gave to me. It really only comes as a gift.
Yeah.
And often, if not always, at the point of some kind of impossibility. It's generally not read this a bunch of times and eventually you'll believe. It's read this and then kind of wait for you to reach the end of your possibility.
Yeah.
and then maybe you'll discover something there that results in you having faith. Yeah. How do you talk to your kids about Easter? Or do you just pump them full of jelly beans and ride along?
Yeah, all of the above. No, I do. There's always a moment in Easter morning where there are tears, and that has to do with a curling iron and then and a hair bow. No, I love reading the story of Easter to kids. Once again, we really hammer home on Christmas that you need to read the Christmas story to your kids. But like, for some reason, we don't talk about like sitting with your family and reading the Easter story. And I'm not saying like we gather around the fireplace and read the Easter story or anything like that. But I don't know. It's one of those that like reminding them that it's more than just bunnies and candy. Like, that there is an actual holiday that we are celebrating. And this is what it's about. It's about Jesus's resurrection.
And I get that we say read the Christmas story because Mary had a baby is the story.
Yes.
And that's enough. And they know other people who've had babies. And so that's not inconceivable.
Yeah.
Later they figure out Mary had a baby and that baby is God. You know, that's
and she was a virgin.
Right. But even as children, he was dead and then not. They've never seen that before.
Right.
And because of how radically unnatural a story it is, I get how we're like, I don't know if I want to give this story to my kids. Because then every time they experience a dead fish or a dead grandparent, I've got to figure out how to tell them Jesus is alive, but grandma's not. So
I always just say, grandma's not alive here.
That's good. That's good.
Which if you want our thoughts on that, go back and listen to our Advent episodes.
I'm just saying, like, I have compassion on parents that are wrestling with this themselves and how to talk to their kids about it.
There was one Easter where, I talked about our friends that come over every Easter.
Yeah.
And then we have added an additional family. They're a family that lives down the street from us. And so like we all go to church on Easter morning, and then our neighbors, they all go to their church on Easter morning. And then this other family, friends of ours, they're just not church people. And so they come over still though, and we still celebrate Easter. And so they were all on the back, all the kids were outside eating, because I just don't like eating in the same room as children. So like all the kids were outside eating, and the girls were talking about like, oh, well, at church this morning. And the boys that were there were like, well, why do y'all went to church today? And they were like, it's Easter. And they were like, okay, but why, what's special about Easter at church? And then my youngest, and then our neighbor, her youngest, they have the same name. They were like, let me tell you, and just start like proselytizing at the lunch table. And the boys were like, that's a pretty cool story, right? Because it is like somebody was dead and now they're alive. Like for two kids that like don't grow up in the church, that don't encounter this regularly, I don't know. They were very much like, well, that's a really neat thing that you know what I mean? Like they loved that story,
yeah, sure. Of course.
I think sometimes it's harder, as you talked about, like your evolution, the older you get, the harder it is to accept.
Right.
I think as a kid, you're like, okay.
Yeah, I think that's right. And so part of part of my answer to how do I want to talk to my kids about this are I'm actually super pumped to be able to talk to them about this through different stages of development.
Yeah.
And when they say I don't understand how that's possible, be really excited and say I don't either, you know.
And we've talked about that before with like some of our other stories, like Noah's Ark, right?
Right.
Where you tell them at 5, Jesus rose from the dead, and then you sit down with them at 10 or 15 or 20, and you're like, so now what do you feel about this story?
Yeah. I think that will be fun and challenging. But I encourage all of us parents to choose to look forward to the challenge.
Yeah.
And like be honest about when we've had our own questions and stuff like that. But I'm at a point now where again, it's like, if you don't get it, that's fine. I'm at the point where for me, it's everything.
Yeah.
And I don't need everybody to agree with me. It's just where I am. And generally, but like, it's a hard won faith, too, you know, been through stuff, been through doubts, been through contrary evidence.
Yeah.
And I think also like on Easter Sunday as the pastor, those people there was a teacher I had once who said, when you're writing something, you have to figure out who's in your jury box. Who are you writing for? Because you might be writing for 1,000, you might be writing for 1, but who are the 12 people that you're trying to actually speak to? And on Easter morning, the people in my jury box are the person who got drugged to church, doesn't want to be here, thinks Christians are stupid. They have a seat. It's probably half the seats. The other is various people who have evidence to the contrary that they've lived in the last year, where they've been the victims of tragedy or defeat or failure. And if I'm preaching to anybody, I want it to be preaching to them. I don't need to preach to all the folks that are just, happy about the bunnies or happy about the candy. I want to be able to offer this as a message of good news for those folks. Because I don't take the doubt lightly. I don't take the evidence to the contrary lightly. It's real. And so is this. So yeah, I feel like this is just me unpacking all of the things that are running through my mind as Easter gets closer and closer and closer. And I don't know how universal those are. This might just all be pastor problems.
Now, keep in mind, you can stream Drew's Easter sermon at umcgrace.org.
And I guarantee you, it will be underwhelming.
It's going to be the best sermon you've ever.
I'm done trying to do that. I did preach one. I got my first Easter sermon ever. The pastor said, "Sure, you can preach on Easter at the sunrise service," and it's like, you can preach at 6:30 in the morning, so I don't have to. So that was my first one, and I liked what I did. But I preached for like 18 minutes, which is long for me.
Oh my God!
And nobody wanted to be there that long. And so afterwards, I was like, "Okay, that's over. I'm sorry, everyone." Like, I felt very apologetic. I'm done trying to preach the hell out of Easter. Mostly, I just want to get out on time so I can go get Chinese food.
I think you should preach the hell out of Easter, though.
That's true. Well, here's one little piece of bonus content. Is you talked about you want to know what was happening in the intervening hours.
Yes.
The church's answer to that is that fight between Jesus and the devil that was part of your play, that's what's happening. But just probably not in the same cartoonish way that I imagined that was dramatized. But
there was no fly system?
Not that I'm aware of. But what the church says is that in death, Jesus goes to hell to free the souls of those who were lost. And that's the most metal thing about Easter, and it's low key my favorite part. Because I like my Jesus a little angry, and he's going on a rescue mission, and ultimately the reason it's so essential is because if Jesus can't get into hell, I'm not convinced that Jesus can get to me. But because he can even get to hell, there's hope for people like me. And so it's called the harrowing of hell. And I have a friend who makes fun of me because he knows it's my favorite thing. And I like it even more than Communion and Braveheart. I don't bring it up all the time because I start to sound weird, but
we are releasing this episode the day before Easter. So if you're listening to this on release day, understand that's what's happening right now.
Absolutely. And it's metal AF.
Yes.
And it's the key to salvation. And it's true.
Yeah.
All right, good.
Hallelujah.
Anything else you want to do? Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
No, I'm just really excited about Easter this year.
Me too.
So I can't wait.
It's going to be great. Chinese food's going to be great. Jelly beans are going to be great.
Yeah.
You will think the Tootsie Rolls are great.
I will think the Tootsie Rolls are great. The mac and cheese. My neighbor makes mac and cheese and brings it to our house. So she's like on it.
But your mac and cheese is very good.
I know. But I give it,
You delegate.
I delegate.
That's wise.
I'm in charge of the rest of the food. And she has hers is just as good. So good. I'm delegating this year.
Love it.
All right.
Happy Easter, everybody.
Yes. And don't forget, you can always send us an email to minivangelism@gmail.com. Please, if you could do us a favor, we would love to know who is listening. And we would love it if you could follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. and also rate and review us. It just, once again, gives us an idea of who's listening, what we can do better, what we should keep doing if it's good. And then also don't forget to follow us on social media. You can find us on Instagram at Minivangelism.
And we also always need kids to interview. So if there are kids in your car that would like to have a chance to be on the show, we'd love it to hear from you.
Yes, we are running out of kids that have said that they want to do it. So if your kids have said that they want to do it, please, please, please let us know. And we would love to have them on the show. All right.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter. Bye.
Bye.
Minivangelism and the Driver's Seat are hosted by Anna Burrell and Drew Colby. Theme song written by David Burrell and produced by Evan Setzer. The theme song was performed by David Burrell, Drew Colby, and Evan Setzer. Podcast, sound design, and editing done by David Burrell. Minivangelism and the Driver's Seat are a ministry of Grace United Methodist Church in Manassas, Virginia. For more information, check out umcgrace.org.